Just like everybody thought would happen, Zach Wilson goes out there and outplays Patrick Mahomes on Sunday Night Football. And I'll tell you, BT, I was thinking a lot about you because you're the only person in this town. And I've heard a lot of people say, whoa, everybody was against him. No, that is not true. BT was the one believer in this town with Zach Wilson. However, I have to admit, it's a little much. Like, it went from everybody but you, BT, ripping Zach Wilson, and now because he has one decent game, it's, oh my God, Zach Wilson's the greatest quarterback ever. I'm still not there yet. I was impressed, obviously. I was happy for him.
I know you were.
I'm still not there yet with Zach Wilson.
He's going to be a star. I got news for everybody here. The Jets finally learned how to utilize the second overall pick. Yeah, Zach Wilson's going to be a star. I mean, Zach Wilson... and here's the thing. I think you're really underselling one decent game. Zach Wilson made throws that not many people on the planet can make.
I'm still not seeing it. Yeah, you're right. The throws in the window, the back shoulder, whatever. We went over it. I still didn't get the feel of a guy who's in command as a quarterback in this league. He was good. They opened things up a little bit more, sure.
Yep, credit to Hackett, no doubt.
All right, so how does everybody go? And again, everybody aside from you, and we really didn't even see anything. Even though you believed in him, we didn't see anything like this from Zach Wilson in his NFL career.
No, definitely not.
So how do we go from 2.5 years, or whatever, 2 years plus 4 games of not seeing anything to now that, and everybody ripping him, and rightfully so, to now one game, and it's like, oh, Zach Wilson, the Jets are back with Zach Wilson. They have a quarter. I don't get it.
Well, it happens, and it happened with the guy who's playing tonight, by the way. Everybody was off the Daniel Jones, if you were ever on it, Express, and you said, this guy's not it. This guy's a bum. This guy's a reach. We got to find somebody else. And then Daniel Jones put a lot of stuff on tape last year that changed his profile and certainly changed his bank account. Listen, here's the thing with, and it's so incriminating that the Jets staff, that it took this long to figure this out. He's not a game manager. I mean, having him drop back and assess the field and go through, you got to let him run. It's like taking a stallion. Honestly, it's like taking a stallion and putting him in a garage and say, have fun. Have fun running around this 8x10 box and try to make something happen. Finally, the Jets came out. They were creative. They let him flow. They let him move. They let him do his thing. They changed the lineup, by the way. Rucker played. Gibson played. Things changed. Listen, Sal, it's funny. On Friday, during one of the breaks, I was watching BYU film. Remember that?
We talked about it on the air, yeah.
Yep, and the film that I was already familiar with but hadn't watched in a while, admittedly, that the way they let him play last night is the way he played at BYU. And I got news for you. Now, again, things need to happen. He's got to keep doing this, which, by the way, he will. I think he can be a star. But the Zach Wilson that we saw last night, forget about being the number 2 overall pick. That talent could actually be the number 1 pick. But that's how much talent Zach Wilson has.
But here's my issue, and I agree with you. The talent has always been there. The arm talent, the escapability, the mobility, all those things. That's not my issue. I still have questions about him making the right reads, going through his progressions. Now, could he get better at that? Sure, but it is year 3 here, and I still have problems with his maturity. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Even after the game, a game in which he played his ass off, right? Played well, outplayed Mahomes. Unfortunately, Jets lost the game. More on that in a little bit. But after the game, they're showing Lazard and Cobb coming over to him like he's in Little League. Like, oh, it's okay, little buddy. You played good. No, dude, you're an NFL quarterback. Sack up and act like it. All right, you lost. You fumbled the ball. You cost your team whatever. You played your ass off. Like, stand up there and own it. He's a little kid. I know he's very young, BT, and there's got to be growth, but I'm still watching a little kid play the position of quarterback, which you need to be an alpha male to have success at.
I understand that part, and I don't. I mean, first of all, I texted Sal last night. I said he lost the headband, which, by the way, seems like a little thing. That headband annoyed me. Because to me, when you're playing well and you're rocking a headband that is flown out of your helmet, you know what they're saying? They're saying this kid's got style.
Right.
When you're getting your head dented and you're throwing 55% completion rate and doing nothing to get your team in the end zone, you look like a petulant, spoiled brat who has no idea how to function in a locker room with big, grown men who are doing this for a living to put food on the table. So I look at this, all of this stuff with Zach, and one thing that has been largely forgotten, because, Sal, we've said it a million times, the way that, the offensive line is a rookie and the lack of talent, rookie coach, new system.
They set him up for failure, yeah.
All the football things we've hit a million times. But I think the one thing that has been largely ignored is that he really does come from the most unique collegiate background / state in our country.
Right.
And I know Ohio State, for the most part, quarterbacks have not worked out well. But if you're an Ohio State quarterback, you're used to 110,000. That's the only game in town. You're picked apart like a lab rat. You criticize, you're propped up, the whole deal. Notre Dame, same thing. USC, same thing. This kid played in a little teeny-weeny tiny insulated bubble in Utah, all right, in the state, not obviously Utah, of course, at BYU, during COVID when there was nobody in the building. It has taken him a while to figure things out. And I know, kneeling down and those guys coming over after the game, that's one thing to react to. You know what I react to? I react to the young man where it finally clicked and he got to that podium and he said, I messed up. I'm the reason we lost. I dropped the fumble. Not acceptable. The complete antithesis of what he did a year ago. He looked like a star. I cannot wait for the next game. Credit to Hackett. I'm still not sold on Saleh. I'll get to him later. Hackett, good job getting things with his skill set. He looked awesome. And if you can't point that out, like Rodney Harrison with that clown show on NBC last night, you are a predisposed hater. He was awesome last night.
Here's what I will say. There was significant growth. It doesn't matter what I saw necessarily, but there was significant growth for the first time. Like you could say you saw a little bit against Dallas, New England, whatever, regression. There's no denying that Zach Wilson showed what he is capable on the NFL field last night. I just have a hard time
against a good defense, by the way.
Against a good defense,
with all the pressure in the world, everybody hung this kid. Everybody.
Agreed. And with going through the adversity, being down 17-0, at that point, it's like, oh my God, this is going to get ugly. People mocking him left and right, all of that stuff. So I was very happy for him, and we saw progression. All I'm asking for is to pump the brakes a bit. Let's not be so foolish. And again, you're a little different, BT. Because you believed in him here, so that's what you wanted to see. But let's not be so foolish to where everybody was like, this kid sucks, the worst quarterback in the league, to all of a sudden now being, hey, you know what? Zach Wilson is going to be a stud in the NFL. Adam is calling from South Jersey. Adam?
Oh, now batting leadoff on the fan, Adam from South Jersey.
Hey,
guys, how you doing today?
What's up,
What's
Adam?
up, man?
Hey, man, listen, I've been saying this for a couple of weeks, guys. And Zach being bad this early in the season was as much, if not more, on the coaching staff than it was on Zach. Because I'm going to tell you something I've learned as a coach for 30 years. Something you learn is that a bad coach tries to make a team do what he wants them to do, and a good coach figures out what someone does, unlocks them, and figures out a way for them to perform. And what you saw last night was Hackett finally figuring out what he had to do with
This is not about Hackett, Adam. I'm sorry, and thank you for the call. BT, this is not about Hackett. We'll get into the coaching in a little bit. It's about Zach Wilson.
Yeah, but without Hackett, with that concession, people would be burying Zach today. Hackett needed to change things up.
Well, hold on a second. People have been burying Zach Wilson for 2.5 years.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but
because of Zach Wilson, not because of the coaches.
Well,
right or wrong, you and I may disagree. Well, we may agree that a lot of it has to do with the circumstance.
Yeah,
they've been ripping Zach Wilson. Then how many people have called you and Tiki over the years or called me over on the overnight and said, well, you know what? Zach Wilson is a product of the coaching. No, it's all been Zach Wilson sucks. You've been defending it the other way.
But that's because too often people lack substance and they're into the hot take microwave analysis and they don't really know football the way they need to. Doesn't mean that they were right. I mean, anybody could call the radio show or as a host, and trust me, I know I rant and rave, and sometimes it's on the mark and sometimes it's not. But the one thing that drives me crazy in life is a lack of perspective. I've always said context matters. And those people who, chose to ignore the way they deployed Zach Wilson, they don't know football. I don't know I don't know how else to put it. They don't know the game. They don't know the schematics. They don't understand the cerebral nature of the game. They don't understand the fleeting emotions of a young kid. If they don't get it, I mean, I can't retrain their minds. They're lost.
No, but the point is, this right now is not about Nathaniel Hackett.
But it partially is, though. It is. They let him throw on first down. They moved the pocket. They played Ruckert. They played Gibson. It is. Now, of course, Zach's got to make those sick back shoulder throws, which he did. But
that's what it's about.
I get that, but I've got to at least be fair. I've been crushing Hackett, and he completely changed last night, and it worked.
Right, but there were a lot. Again, you a little bit different circumstance because you're one who believed in Zach Wilson. The majority of people didn't think Zach Wilson could throw the ball, period, at the NFL level. And by the way, he hasn't proven that he could. Like, arm there, sure, but he's throwing balls in the dirt with guys wide open in the flat. He's making the bad reads, all this stuff. So it's not about the coaching necessarily. Now, did that help last night opening it up? Sure, but he executed. That's what it's about. Let's not lose sight, especially with the first call of the day, what this is about. It's about Zach Wilson. Do you believe that Zach Wilson can be the guy? Danny's in Centerport. What's up, Danny?
Hey, guys. What's happening? Sal, I mean, in all due respect, man, you got to be absolutely kidding me, man. You're coming on here just going right at the kid. This kid with arrows thrown at him all week under the spotlight, Sunday Night Football. This kid showed a lot of heart last night, man. You got to stop for 1 second and give him a little bit of love.
I got
news for you, Sal. If Conklin makes that catch, okay, and he's 1 yard short of hitting Garrett Wilson on the sideline, and Zerline makes that field goal, we're talking about a different game here, man.
Danny, hold on a second. First of all, and thank you for the call. What the hell are you talking about? A, I picked the Jets to win the game on Friday, you knucklehead, so I was rooting for them to win. B, I just said I saw significant growth and progression. All I'm saying is, before you now put him in the Hall of Fame, remember a week ago or 3 days ago, you had him left for dead. You couldn't, everybody out there, you couldn't stand Zach Wilson. And now I got to whoa, Zach Wilson's the next great thing.
That drive where he went 5 for 5, all right, and made some of the toughest throws I've ever seen a Jets quarterback make, honestly. A hyperbolic guy, whatever. No, it's not. You cannot look better than that on a professional football field.
I've seen guys look better.
I haven't.
Because you're watching the Jets, maybe.
Yeah, it's not exactly a high no, but I watched the rest of the league, obviously.
I get it.
Like, the anticipation, the placement, the zip, this is what I've been telling you.
I mean, he also missed Garrett Wilson.
Don't bury the kid.
He also missed Garrett Wilson. It should have been a touchdown if he threw a little touch.
Listen, I mean, nobody's perfect. I mean, Mahomes looked awful last. I got you.
I understand
it wasn't perfect. And by the way, Michael Carter, if you are going to complain to the coaches, you better catch that pass.
Agreed.
Unforgivable drop.
So you said something that I think is important. Mahomes looked awful last night.
He looked bad.
But it was one game, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Mahomes is phenomenal.
Right, and it's only one game because he has put in a great track record already.
No doubt.
So the same applies for Zach Wilson. It was one game where he looked competent. He looked good. It's one game. For the record, I'm rooting for him. It was great growth that we saw. Most people didn't even think we would see that period from Zach Wilson. I hope we see it again. However, it's one game. The overreaction is intolerable, BT.
See, to me, and there's a lot of guys in this town, this is an older reference. One is Rich Gossage. I know it's an odd, throw in here, 15 minutes into a football Monday. So Goose comes to the Yankees, could not throw a strike, okay? And he was a starter for the White Sox. He would labor. He'd like 100 pitches, couldn't get out of the fourth or fifth. They moved him to bullpen. He became Goose. By the way, same with Nolan Ryan. Couldn't throw a strike, was all over the place. Sometimes it takes a while to harness what God gave you. And I feel incredibly comfortable saying that when it comes to arm talent, I mean, God gave this kid more than almost every quarterback in the NFL. Honestly.
But there's more to it.
No, I get that. But that's why.
Like, are you sold that now, okay, we're never going to see regression again? Like, next week, he's
going
to go out there?
Of course. Listen, do I think he's going to have 0 games with multiple picks? Of course he's going to. Do I think he beats Denver and plays very well? Yep. I believe
you said he's going to be a star.
I do believe he's going to be a star. But I mean, to start the trajectory to become a star, that pathway is not.
There'll be some ups and downs.
And not just one game against Denver, and then, by the way, tough games after that. I believe last night, especially, and this just if you don't think that the kid had stones, if you don't think the kid had the backbone or the shoulders to bear the brunt of not only New York City, you have to go back to the national narrative this past week. I don't know. I honestly don't. And tell me if you can think of somebody. I can't think of a single player that was knocked around in the court of public opinion. Every podcast, every show, radio, every TV show, everybody with a Twitter account or an X account or whatever account you want, they absolutely buried this kid. And he came out and he not only went toe for toe with Patrick Mahomes, he played twice as good as Mahomes.
Which was great to see.
What does that tell you about the future?
So it
says buy now.
My biggest concern is the maturity. The progressions and reading the field is one thing, and that's a huge concern.
Huge concern or concern? I just want huge concern or concern?
Good question. Is that something he could get better at?
I think he already has. Those checkdowns Those checkdowns have become a little more polished.
He still
That
held on to the
play-
ball a little too long last night.
Not that much.
I don't think that's something that's going to be fixed week to week. I mean, maybe by the end of the year he could start going through his progressions better. I wasn't seeing that last night. Now, again, he was clearly better than what we've seen ever before from him, but I wasn't sold. And I think the maturity thing, like that, he can improve. He's going to get older. He's going to get tougher. Now that he starts to have some success, he's going to have true confidence.
Yep.
He's just, it almost seems like he's too nice of a kid and still a little, like you shouldn't have to be coddled by his team. I want him talking to Lazard and be like, hey, you should have made a play. Or Cobb, yeah, you should have made a play. And I get those guys are veterans. But it's not like, hey, kid, don't worry, keep your head up. Like, He's the quarterback of the New York Jets who just played his ass off.
I hear you, a big picture, but I would remind you, as much as whether it was Rodgers, certainly the Rodgers we know, or Brady, who would eviscerate a teammate, they weren't doing that when they were just learning how to play.
So that's what I'm saying. I think he could grow that way.
So do I.
I don't know about the progressions down the field. That is why I would consider it a major concern. Pete is calling from Seaford. What's up, Pete?
Hey, Pete.
Guys, good morning. I still think Zach is living week to week here. He has to have a good game next week against Denver, and then going into against the buzzsaw Eagles team, Eagle defense particularly the week after that. But what I will say is that, if you go back to last season, Zach's two best games, the Bills game and probably the Pittsburgh game, albeit against a bad Pittsburgh team, we were lauding him for managing the game, right? He won the game because he managed the game. He didn't make mistakes, a couple of big throws.
Yep.
But he really didn't do anything to, quote-unquote, win the game. He managed the game. Last night, Zach did everything he could, right up until he fumbled the snap, to win that game. And that's the difference. He wasn't a manager. He was a winner last night. And unfortunately, they lost the game. And I know you're going to get to the coaches later. Cannot let Saleh off the hook.
Oh, I'm not.
For allowing this team to come out flat.
I'm not. I'm not. I don't think they'll ever win with him. They'll never win big with Robert Saleh. We'll get to that later. Trust me. I'm not letting him off the hook. We're starting with Zach because that's obviously the big story. And Zach was stupendous.
But I like what he said there. He didn't manage the game.
Exactly.
He did all he could to win the game. He made a mistake. That's going to happen.
Yep.
Fumbling the football, whatever, throwing some interceptions. That's going to happen as you let him go along the way. And that's why I kind of look at this as a rookie year. The first 2 years, you're going to have to throw out. He's at least healthy. I know it wasn't supposed to start, but he made plays to win that game last night for the first time in his career.
Well, that's why I said, I used the stallion analogy. Like, you put a stallion in a tool shed, where the hell's he going to go? Now, conversely, he's going to bang into walls and he's probably going to get hurt or whatever. You let a stallion run free. You know what? That stallion might get a little lost and might push the limits of where he's going to go, and you might think that he's gone. Eventually, the stallion races back home. You've got to allow talent to flourish. And when you let it breathe and you pump life, finally, the Jets did this. I can't believe it took this long. It's criminal that they finally pump life into this kid's into the oxygen, into his lungs here. They finally emboldened him to be great instead of drilling into his skull every day. Check down, don't turn it over. We'll pump, we'll play D. We'll get 17 points. We'll try to win. No, with this kid in the future, the goal should be let's try to score 30. And last night it started.
Brandon Tierney, Salicata on the Fan. More of your calls on the other side, 877-337-6666. Programming note coming up at noon. We will hear live from the new president of baseball operations with the Mets, David Stearns, as he will be introduced to meet the media for the first time.